Happy Wednesday. That's all I can say. Happy Wednesday. I'm actually at the hotel today doing some work up here, got some stuff going on, and figured I would do the training from here. So I want to make sure, one, you can hear me. So I would love it if somebody could tell me if you're joining or not, if you can hear me or not. Trying a little different setup here with my headset. It's not a normal thing that I use, but we're gonna give it a shot. And so let's see. Give me 1 second, and we will jump to it. So if you can hear me, I would love like a thumbs up, a like, something. Like don't care what it is, just something to let me know because I really don't want to go like 60 minutes and nobody can hear me or it's like really bad quality or something like that. So if you could do that, it would be amazing. Today we are going to be going through, I'm sure you've seen the emails, right? So we're going through like what the steps look like and how getting started in the co-hosting realm and the co-hosting business really looks. And I've got a bunch of Q&As. I've got a bunch of things that I want to go over because what's crazy is like I spoke at a meetup last night and a lot of people are like, oh, what about arbitrage? How is arbitrage different than co-hosting or managing for somebody? I'm like, well, there's a big difference, right? Like arbitrage is renting it from somebody and subletting it out, and co-hosting is you're setting it up, you're managing it for the owner. So I just want to be like really clear, like managing, co-hosting, management company. I don't know what else you call it, but like those are the same thing. So co-hosting and managing is the same thing. There's just like a bucket, right? That Airbnb just kind of like coined and said, hey, if you get added to somebody's account and you do their messages, well, that's what we're going to call a co-host. So, but now, like today, like the only people you find that's actually like traditionally co-hosting like that are people that are overseas that are trying to strum up, increase their income. They're charging 3 to 5%, maybe 5 to 10% somewhere in there, and all they're doing is really they're not doing pricing, they're not doing listing optimization, they're just messaging for homeowners. But that is like really going away. You're not going to find that as much, and a lot of people are more like a little bit more weary on that. So not really weary. What's the right word to say? Like I would say like they're just a little bit more skeptical, or they say, well, if I'm only going to pay 10%, then I'm going to have a full-time manager or somebody do it. So I just want to clarify like those are the same thing. Like, co-hosting and managing today is pretty much the same thing. Now, when you talk with an owner, when you talk with another manager, and you say like, "Are you a co-host?" Like some people have never heard that term, so just understanding like some explanation there, and like co-hosting is like a bucket that a lot of people just kind of dump into. So, just to clarify that. And now arbitrage obviously is subletting it from somebody else, right? You sign a contract with somebody, you say, hey, like I'm gonna rent it from you, maybe you furnish it or whatever, and then you're putting it on Airbnb and VRBO, and you're subletting it, you're arbitraging it from somebody else. Now, the word arbitrage is not specific to short-term rentals, right? There's like lending arbitrage where I'm borrowing money at 5% and I'm lending at 9%. So that's like an arbitrage model. You're just like the middleman there. And so it's the same thing for the SDRs. If you're gonna arbitrage a property, you're talking a homeowner into letting you sublet it out, and there's a lot of conversations there. And as time's gone on, like one, it's more risky than anything. But two, I've heard a lot of masterminds like starting to teach people how to lie to the owners, and we don't really work that way. So I don't really push that. Now that's not always, but I get a lot of people that I talk to, and they say the same thing. They say, "Well, I'm not really comfortable with these conversations or whatever." And it's just because it's not truthful. So maybe you're not lying, you're just not being 100% truthful. And so we don't push a lot of like I do not push arbitrage a lot. Like I have physically almost arbitraged a couple deals. I've never actually done it. I have helped people have those conversations, like real conversations, but I don't push arbitrage a lot, right? I'm not going to shove it down your throat. And I've got some students that have really good arbitrage deals, right? If it makes money, it makes sense, but we have to do the formulas. It has to be paid back in 6 months, all that kind of thing. But then there's the like, is the homeowner gonna like renew the lease? Are you gonna get stuck with furniture? Are they gonna sell the building? Like I had one guy that had 19 arbitrage deals. I think they did about 25K a month. And he was like, do you think I should quit? I was like, no, I wouldn't do that. Like, I would just keep going. If it's working, it's working. But he was split between two buildings, right? He had like 10 units and 9 units, or 11 units and 8 units, something like that. And one of the buildings came up for sale and it sold. And the new landlord did not renew the leases. So now he's like instantly half his income's gone. He's got to do something with the furniture that he's got in there. So he's got all these things that are, it's very much like if you're a very risk adverse person, then arbitrage probably isn't for you. Like, just to be honest. Now, when it comes to co-hosting, it doesn't start anything to actually start the company. Like, I mean, doesn't cost anything for you to start the company. This is more like, I love working with homeowners that are going to purchase just strictly for investment, or, it's already a vacation rental and you're helping them, convert from another manager. And so, we have a lot of conversations, we have a lot of methods. There's about 15 different ways to grow, but I really want to just focus on like the start, right? Like the start building of that foundation, the hey, I can do this, and just give you like one good avenue to go after. And so like there's like 15 ways, right? And I'm not going to go over all 15 ways, and some things don't work and in this area, and some things work in this area, whatever. I'm going to give you like very clear, defined, like one way, one method to just go all in on for the next, say, 2 weeks if you want to go get your first deal. And there's a lot of great methods, right? So if you guys have, by the way, if you guys have any questions whatsoever, I'm trying to go back and forth between the questions and the chat. So if you have anything, if you're starting a co-hosting company, or you have one and you're struggling, or you have a question about a method or whatever, just ask, like just throw it in the chat. But nonetheless, so like let's say you've got a company that you want to start, and you're like, okay, how do I start, right? So first things first, we got to pick a market. Typically, I would say like pick 3 and then narrow it down to 1. Don't pick somewhere that you don't want to go. Don't pick like the mountains if you hate going to the mountains. If you love the beach, then pick a beach. Don't pick like, we want to find somewhere that's like quote unquote saturated, right? Because we're going to help a lot of homeowners. So the volume, like having a high volume of people, is very important. So if there's 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 people plus, the chances of you having more conversations around like helping somebody is easier than if you want to go like West Georgia in the boonies. There's 3 in the whole county. Like, I would stay away from that because there's not a big chance of you growing to say 10K, 20K, 30K a month. So we're going after high volume, high saturated areas, and there's still a lot of money to be made there, even if you own. But that's a whole nother conversation. So we got to pick a market, and then we got to pick a name, right? And so if you said like, hey, I'm gonna go like Fugit Holdings LLC, which is my last name, Holdings LLC, like that doesn't need to be like your management company. That can be like your investment company or whatever. But I would pick something that is somewhat in line with either you or like the market. So like if you were, in the mountains, maybe you did like Whispering Winds Homes or something, Mountain View Homes, or something like that. So I would go that route, right? If you go to the beach, then something that has to do with the coast. My sister is down in Florida near the University of Florida, and it's like the swamp or something like that. And so she picked something that has to do with the swamp in the name. Like, I personally wouldn't do that, but it works. So I want to just, I want to be clear when it comes to that. Like, pick something that is in line with what you're trying to do, right? So when somebody sees you online, they know kind of like, they pretty much know what you do, right? Like if you said like, Property Investments LLC, people are gonna be like, okay, they must buy homes or something. So stay in line there. So that's a big one. Then after that, you have like your logo. That's the fun part, right? You got your logo, you got your LLC, you start growing that, you start building that. Then you have your website, and you have your Google My Business page, right? All of these different ways are starting to build that foundation. And after that, when you're like, okay, this is what I'm going after. If you start, and then you'll hear this a lot, if you start and you say, well, like depending on what your goal is. So we got to get clear on what the goal is. And if the goal is like, I'm going to make 10K a month as fast as possible, then we're not turning homeowners down unless they're like horrible people. We don't really care about like how far out of the market that we're going for is, to be honest. Like, I get super savage on this. So when we go to grow, the biggest thing is we have to focus 100% of our energy in the growth. So if like you build a company and you're like, okay, well, I got the LLC and I got this and I got that, like people will find me. Like, no, that's not exactly how that works. Just because you create a website doesn't mean people will just swarm to you, right? People have to know what we're doing, have to be aware of what we're doing. We have to go after these meetups, for instance. So yesterday I was at a meetup speaking, and like you can have the best product in the world, but if nobody knows about you or knows what you're doing, then you're never gonna sell it, like ever. So nobody's gonna buy anything from you, which would be like your co-hosting services, right? So you have to be really clear on, you can write a business plan, whatever, I don't care, but like you have to be really clear that 100% of your energy needs to be in the growth side of your business at the very beginning, right? And then we scale that back. Like we'll go down to 90, 80, 70, but like we really don't ever need to go under 70 if we're growing. Or if you take a pause and you want to do your operations, your systems, okay, cool. But understand that like the biggest revenue generating activity is sales. So I want like everybody to understand, if you're going to grow a business, I don't care what it is. I don't care if you have a frozen yogurt franchise or if you have a co-hosting business or if you're a car dealership, I don't care. You need to put 70% minimum of your efforts and energy into the sales side, right? It doesn't matter what your systems look like and your operations look like and your team looks like. If you don't have any sales, like period, you can't pay your team, you can't pay yourself. You're not making a paycheck. There's all these things that like literally rely on the sales side. So who cares about your operations? That's all I can say. If you don't have any clients, nobody cares. Okay. You can't, nobody cares about how good you do something or how nice your reports are if you don't have any people to manage for. So we have to put 90 plus or 100% of our energy into the sales side. Now, if you're just starting out, what I'm going to tell you, I didn't put a presentation together for this. I just thought that I would get on here and really like speak about this because this is something that a lot of people need to understand. And to be honest, presentations are kind of boring, right? So like, let's just chat. So understand that if we're going to put 100% of our energy into sales, what does that look like? Like, what does that even mean, right? I should probably get some recommendations from you guys of like you guys that are watching this, like how are you guys growing? How many units do you have? How are you growing? If you're watching this, you're probably like super new to co-hosting, so maybe you have like one, maybe two, something like that. So when we look at sales side, when we look at growth side, there's certain avenues that are going to produce certain results, right? If you say, hey, I'm gonna like work on my SEO, like I wouldn't really care about that right now. If I was gonna say like, hey, I'm gonna build my Google My Business page, cool, but that's not gonna produce you a lead tomorrow, right? That's something that's going to build over time and lead gen when you're sleeping. There's the passive lead gen, and then there's the active lead gen. And what I want to focus on for you guys today, right now, is active lead gen. Now, in this method that I'm going to tell you, I've seen people on the first call land a deal. They picked up the phone. It's direct to owners, right? So we're calling homeowners. The first phone call produced a lead, which produced the deal and got a signed contract. Like, no question. I've also seen where you get a list of people and you send it out to a skip tracer and it's 200 numbers and they send it back and nobody answers except like 5, and of the 5 is the wrong number. And they say, well, cold calling doesn't work and I can't talk to anybody. It's because the quality of the leads that you got. What we do, what I like to do, especially when you're like super early on, is find the longitude and the latitude and convert that into a phone number. And so there's some websites out there, some free resources that you can go longitude, latitude, and produce it. So we produce lists in like say AirDNA, and we get that stuff out of it. And then we're calling the homeowners. Now there's a whole, what do you say? How do you handle this conversation? How do you do that? Like that's stuff that we do, like more so like in the community, we have all these conversations and cold calls and scripts and all that kind of stuff. But when you have this conversation with somebody, like when you call a homeowner and you say, this is Kyle with Cherokee Rose Homes, blah, 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 you have to remember that number one, when you do that kind of lead gen, there's pros and cons to this lead gen, right? The pro is you're calling somebody who owns a house. The con to that is when you stop calling, you stop lead genning. It's not like that one call gets recorded and it gets blasted all the other homeowners. That one call is it. Like that one homeowner is it. So who you have on the line is somebody who could be a client of yours. So understanding that like it literally is held in your hand. Okay. Now I've got somebody, she came in, God, what is it? Two weeks ago? Yeah, I think she started 2 weeks ago. And I can tell you that she is actively lead genning. And I actually, yeah, she did. So like in the first like 6 days, she made a phone call. And she didn't get it off a list or anything like that. She called, she thought about like people she knew, people that she knew that knew other people, like, distant networking. And she made some phone calls and we worked through some stuff. And one of them was not a lead, and one actually became like somewhat of a lead. She texted me today saying, "Hey, this is a friend of mine or whatever has a listing that doesn't have any bookings. Like, can we help them? Whatever." So just the action, just the fact that she's like networking and calling people, like guys, you have to understand, you have to take action. You have to take action. You have to call people like this. If you're going to go your first deal, your second deal, you have to understand that that is the growth that you need to start with. Like that is the avenue that you want to start with is cold calling somebody. And you might say, well, I don't want to cold call. I don't want to do this. I'm not a salesman. I don't want to put my sales hat on. Like, who cares? It's not sales. See, you're helping homeowners. Okay. Like you are helping somebody that is in massive need of help and they're in a struggle. They're not making the revenue they need, or they hate their management company, or they hate their cleaners, or whatever have you. And some of these people are on the verge of like bankruptcy or divorce or whatever, and they really just need some help. And by you making these phone calls and you talking to them and just helping them and coming from a place of service, that is what lands deals, right? That is what gets you going in the right direction. Like it's what gets you, the name and the help and all that stuff. So just like I can kick a dead horse, right? I don't want to kick a dead horse, but I will. Is when you say I'm going to start this company, right? I'm going to start co-hosting, and you start building the foundation, right? You've got your name and your logo and your LLC, and you start growing that, and you got your Google My Business page, you got your website, whatever. Then you're like, okay, how do I go get my first deal? You're gonna freaking cold call somebody. That's what you're gonna do. That is how you get your first deal as quickly as possible. Not like, there's one other method that's really, really freaking good. But you're going to cold call somebody. You're going to call, I don't care if it's a friend, I don't care if it's a relative or a friend of a friend, you to think about everybody in your network, and that's who you're going to go after, right? And when you have that conversation, you have to have the confidence that you know what you're doing. So you have to have the confidence of what you're selling. You have to have the confidence of the information. Even if they ask you a question on that call that you don't know, it's okay. You just say, hey, I actually don't know. Like, let me do a little bit more research and I will figure that out, right? Maybe they're asking you a market specific question or whatever. Just, hey, that's a great question. Let me do some research. Let me get back to you. Let me let you know. So you have to kind of like break that ice. So that first call is kind of like an ice breaking call. And you have to understand that like if you show up to that call and you're like, well, maybe I can do this. I just wanted to know and just this and just that. Like you're never going to close the deal. You're never going to get somebody to say, this guy knows what he's talking about. Let me understand what they're doing. Like you have to bring the confidence of I can help you. Okay. You have to bring the confidence of I can help you. Now, when you start going, like let's say you get a yes, right? You have that cold call, you get a yes. Then the question is like, now what? Which is a great situation to create. So we're like, we created our company, we got a deal, we got this one deal, which you need to be like cold calling, right? If you're under like 5, I would say if you're under 5 listings or 5 clients, you better be cold calling, right? And using your network and using your resources and doing the Facebook groups and the Facebook messaging too. But like cold calling is going to land you immediate results. Now, let's say you get your first yes, right? I get this question a lot. Is like, okay, um, um, I get this question a lot, and it's like, what happens after I get the yes? Then what do I do? Well, we have a contract that needs to be signed. And we traditionally charge an onboarding fee. Okay. But if you're at your very first property, you probably aren't comfortable charging onboard fee because you can't like sell it, right? Like you can't explain it. And so I would say if you really, really are uncomfortable with that, then don't charge one. Don't worry about an optimization fee. That's something that can come as you build into your business. You can do that. But you need to have the contract signed between you and the client, which we have like resources and all that kind of stuff. But you need to have your contract. You need to have them sign it. And then from there, you're going to do your walkthroughs. You're going to probably going to meet the owner. You're going to do your inventory checks. You're going to do your videos, your pictures. There's a lot of stuff that comes to that. And when you get your house, when you start getting your house set up, remember that you need to be able to answer questions about the house without ever having to go back over there. So if it's like, where's the hot water heater? Where's the breaker box? How many windows does this unit have? Where's the washer and dryer? What drawer is the spatula in? Like all of these pictures and all of these videos, you need to be able to see all the way through everything and say, it's over here. You can just look back at your video, look back at your pictures. This part, this over here, it's over here. Hey, there's your breaker box. Here's how you get in your attic, whatever, everything. And I mean, it's going to take you a few hours to do this, but you have to build that. That's part of building your foundation on the back end of like your SOPs and your documents and stuff. Because when you start building a team in the future, you're going to need all this stuff because your team's going to need to see like everything before you get in. All right. Let's see. So starting a co-hosting company, you have to, where do we want to go from here? All right. So that's very fast, right? Like I just blew through all of that. So of course, if you have questions, like please let me know. I just want to get it very clear. Like if you are starting a co-hosting company, you are starting a company, and be very, very clear on that. Like you are starting a company. Now, like at the very beginning, it shows like it feels like, oh, I'm just starting a side hustle. That's how a lot of people start setting up. It's just a side hustle. I'm just going to make a few grand a month and that's it. When you start looking towards the future and you say like, why am I starting this company? What is it that I really want out of this company? Is it a financial goal? Is it because I'm bored? Is it I want the time freedom? Is it I want to buy a new car? Like whatever that goal is, we have to get very clear on that because once we understand what we're doing this for, that's how we make the decisions of growing a company. Do we take on this house? Do we take on that house? Like before you even start calling people or build this thing or create the LLC or anything like that, we have to get very clear. I should have started here, right? You have to get very clear on what we're doing. And that will help you make the decision. So if your goal is, I'm going to leave the 9 to 5 and I have got to make 10 grand a month. I've got to pull in 10 grand a month in my business. I have to do it as fast as possible because I absolutely hate my boss and I absolutely hate the people I work with, or I hate my time freedom or I don't have any time freedom. Once you get very clear on that, then we can say, okay, we're taking on this house. We're not taking on this house. I don't care how mean this client is. I'm taking them on anyways. I don't care what this house produces. I'm calling them anyways. Once we figure that out and we actually go through that and we say, okay, now we're good. Now I understand. Let's push. And you're scared of cold calling. You're scared of doing this. You're nervous about this. Remembering why we started the company will help get past that suppression of, like instead of suppress it, like we can kind of like do away with those thoughts. Like we can suppress them for a little bit and then we can get over them and we can overcome those worries and those fears and those thoughts and those kind of things. Right? It doesn't matter whatever business you're going to be doing. Cold calling, networking, direct messaging, that comes with it. Doesn't matter what the business is. It comes with it. Your DMs, like all of that stuff comes with it. Doesn't matter your business. If you're selling cars, you're doing the same thing, right? So we have to remember like why we're doing it, and then we can say, okay, we're going to take on this client and this client and this client. We're going to cold call or not. So as you build, you're going to keep that in your back pocket, right? Maybe you get to 30 clients and you're like, well, I'm doing 30, 40 grand a month. Like I'm good. I don't really care about bringing on any more clients. Cool. But just understanding what that goal is and what the next avenue is and what the next goal is, are you going to make other businesses inside your business? Those are things that will help you as you go. So like vertical integration, business flywheel, like all of that comes in with like knowing what we want and making the decision towards what we want. So I say all that, and I'm going to give you a couple other things. I mean, this is super quick. I think I've like gone so quick through this, it's not even funny. Um, because I can get a lot of information out very quickly because I love talking about this stuff. But I would say if you're going to grow a co-hosting business and say like, let's say you're under 5, you need to be cold calling. At the same time, I'm going to give you another method is cold calling, and you need to be messaging people on Facebook, right? And what does that mean? That means you're going into these. Sorry, my camera's all over the place because I'm sitting at this little table. When you're going into these Facebook groups and you're going into and you're helping other people, you need to be DMing people that are actively looking or need help, right? You're just constantly helping people. You're helping people in the forums, you're helping people on Facebook, in Facebook groups, bigger pockets. Like you're helping and giving a lot of value back to these people, and your name will come up, right? Like people will start recognizing your name, and they'll start asking you questions, and in that you can say, hey, would love to have a chat and see if we're a good fit. I can manage for you, whatever, I can help you. So having those those constant helps, those constant conversations, that is another really, really, really big way to start picking up clients. So I actually landed my very first deal because I was helping somebody in a Facebook forum. I mean, not Facebook, a Bigger Pockets forum. And it wasn't even the guy that I was helping. It was another guy that was watching the questions and reading. They saw that I was constantly answering and, talking about my market and all that stuff. And he sent me a message and said, can we jump on a phone call? And I was like, sure. Very first cabin ever was through a forum helping out. And I've had a lot of leads since then for that. Like some landed, some I didn't, some we didn't want to work with, some that they were just curious on if it would work or not. But that created so much traction in our business by getting out there and helping other people, right? So I know some of you have a company, maybe you have one deal, maybe you're looking to get started, and you're like, okay, well, like, and I just constantly come back to it. I constantly say the same thing. You have to take action. If you just literally called like 2 people a day, if you just started there, right? Like you're not calling anybody, but you need to start calling somebody. Like don't be like, I need to make 100 phone calls today. Do 15. Just do 5 to start. Do it for a week. At the end of the week, if you do 5 calls a day, 5 calls a day, at the end of the week, let's say you called 5 days, that's 25 calls. Now the next week you say, well, I'm actually, you know what? I'm good. Like I need to keep calling. So now you're not doing 5 calls a day, you're doing 10 or 15 calls a day. If you do 10 calls a day, 5 days a week, it's 50 calls, right? And then you can double that and double it, and you're just taking incremental bites. And it's just ways to move the needle. Like I heard this thing the other day. It was like, if you want to get up earlier, you're not getting up at, you're not getting up at, you're not getting up at 7 and then say, well, I'm gonna wake up at 4 o'clock. Like you don't just make that switch, right? That doesn't make any sense. So what you do is you go from 7 to 6:45, and then from 6:45 to 6:30. You do that for 2 weeks, and then 6:30 to 6:15. You do that for 2 weeks, and you just keep doing that. And next thing you know, it's 5 o'clock in the morning when you're getting up. So you just have to take incremental bite-sized chunks all the way through. Okay. Now, as you grow to like 5, 10, 15 units, that's when you can start speaking. You can start, like helping realtors, going to teach, going to do, trainings. Let's see, working with big realtor offices, buying other management companies, selling contracts, buying contracts. Your growth is a lot different after say like 10, 15 units. So that's a whole nother conversation. That's scaling. That's a whole scaling conversation, a whole scaling topic, not for today. So yeah, so let's see. As you grow, you need to remember that you don't need to hire out everything at the beginning. Like, you're under say 3 to 5 units. You don't have to go get a bookkeeper immediately. You don't have to buy all these softwares that people are trying to get. You don't have to, you don't have to go for the most expensive, PMS. Like, it's just get started and make your money as you go, and then you can subscribe to some of these softwares as you go. Right? Like we have people that come in that are like, should I buy this? Should I have this? Should I buy this? Should I hook up with this software? And I'm like, no, just stop. Like The only software you need right out the gate is your PMS, so OwnerRes or Hospitable, Airbnb and VRBO, and then Price Labs. Like that's really it to start out with. Like just to be honest, all this other stuff, like in the group, if you come in and you're like, hey, I don't have Airbnb, should I buy it? Like if you're under like 3 units, I probably wouldn't. But just utilize all of us in the group, right? So as you grow, you can start picking up some of these expenses, but we need to be very, very lean when we start growing a business. And it doesn't matter what business it is. We're growing a business to leave our job. Do not start picking up all of these softwares and subscriptions and all that kind of stuff. Ask me, should you do it? Like legit, I'll just be honest with you. Like, don't sign up for this. Don't sign up for this one. Absolutely sign up for this one. And it's not because like I get a kickback or anything crazy like that. Like I'll just tell you honestly, I've done that, I've done this, I've done that. I wouldn't do this. So just to be clear, like very lean, very clean, grow and scale as fast as possible. But make sure that when you're doing it, you're not also increasing your expense side all the time too. Okay. So let's see here. We're 35 minutes in. I've covered a ton of information. I hope you guys were taking notes. If you have any questions at all, like throw them in the chat. Throw them in the chat right now. We can pretty much wrap this up and just make sure that I don't have anything lingering. Let's see here. Let me check. I think that might be it, guys. We can definitely have a scaling conversation. If you guys want to see, I'll tell you what, if you guys want to see a certain topic, either throw it in the chat here or throw it in the group. I want to know what topics you want to see. So if you want to dive into one avenue of growth, we can do that. If you want to dive into scaling, we can do that. If you want to dive into picking cleaners and growing cleaning teams, we can do that. If you want to, we did listing reviews last week, so maybe if you have more struggling listings, like we can definitely do that. So I'm very versatile all the way across the board. We don't really hold anything back. Now, if you guys are struggling and you're like, hey, I might need some help, and you want somebody to hold your hand, then we can jump on a call and see if I can help you. So let's see, from there, it's pretty much it, guys. It's pretty much it. I appreciate you joining me here, the Mallard Hotel lobby for the training for today, for Wednesday's training. And if you have any questions whatsoever, do not be afraid to text me or DM me or throw it here in the chat. I will see it, throw it in the group, everything. Okay? Other than that, I will see you guys later. Hope you guys have a great weekend and start to enjoy the summer, because my kids are officially, after today, are officially out for summer. So you will see us at the pool a lot. All right? So with that, I leave you, and I will see y'all later.